the law is the way it is today for a reason, but legal arguments around the 14th Amendment are being taken more seriously. Now, and I'm not gonna hold y'all here all day. I got a couple of things I want to say. Let me make something very clear because people love putting labels on me. Okay, I don't consider myself a conservative. Uh, as I said earlier, I'm a registered Democrat. I've been a Democrat my entire adult life. I voted for Donald Trump in 2020 and again in 2024 because after doing my own research, I believe he was a better candidate for our country. I didn't vote for him in 2016 because at the time he was a wild dude. He was a dude from with the buildings and the gold plated everything, toilets, right? And he was a relative unknown, and I thought Hillary Clinton was a safer choice for America. Okay, so I held my nose and I voted for her. All right, even though I never forgot that years earlier she referred to young black men like me as super predators. Shout out to Big J, Mr. J. Somebody type super predators. I didn't forget that, Hillary. She referred to young black men who were my age who looked like me as super predators. And then I watched Donald Trump govern for 4 years, and what I saw changed my mind. I liked the fact that he came in, kicking over, firing people, and I watched, and I watched someone walk into Washington D.C. and challenge the political establishment and completely reshape the Republican Party. He gave them that work. He made them all bow down, and I like that. If I hire you to be in charge, I want you to be in charge. And whether you love Donald Trump or hate him, you can't deny that he fundamentally changed that party, didn't he? He fundamentally changed politics. He brought it to heel. He made many of those policies Republicans pursue at the federal level align with what I believe are in my interest on the federal level. Somebody type taxes and immigration in the chat room. And at the same time, I still vote for Democrats on many local races. For judges, I vote Democrat. For district attorneys, I vote Democrat. I vote mixed ticket because I don't believe in voting blue no matter who. I don't believe in voting red no matter who either. I vote my interest. And since we only have two choices, if you consider sitting on the couch, then there's three choices. But again, I vote my interest. All right. I spend the time, I do the research on the candidates, and then I cast my vote accordingly, or I don't vote if I just don't like either one of them. Now, with that said, if you're a conservative and you're discouraged by today's Supreme Court decision, I think you're looking at it the wrong way. Constitutional law rarely changes overnight, it changes gradually. Okay, the biggest story is that several justices are willing to seriously consider the legal arguments. And a generation ago, they wouldn't have at all. Now, history teaches us that this is often how constitutional law works. So, many people believe that the same process is now taking place with birthright citizenship. But whether they're ultimately right or wrong, that's not really the point. The point is that the debate continues and it's going to change. Now, another very interesting thing. I want y'all to listen to what I'm saying. So, Justice Clarence Thomas and Ketanji Jackson, two types of black people. Somebody type two types in the chat room. Two types of black people. Okay, two interesting. I'm just saying they could like night and day. Okay, like night and day. Two types of black people. Two types. And I base that on, here's the thing. If you want to understand why so many black Americans struggle to build lasting political and generational power, you have to be willing to examine ideas instead of personalities. See, too often we judge people. I'm talking about us. Somebody type us in the chat room. We judge people based on who they are instead of what they actually believe. We become so consumed with labels that we stop listening to the substance of the argument. And in this case, it's perfect. It's a perfect example. Now, let's try this. Let's forget the names. Let's forget the political parties. Let's forget the fact that Justice Clarence Thomas is black and forget that Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson is black. Forget that both of them are married to white people. Okay? Forget everything you know about them and their personality. Instead, read what they actually wrote. And to understand why Justice Thomas begins where he does, you have to understand the single most infamous Supreme Court decision in American history. That's Dred Scott v. Sanford. Dred Scott was a black man. He was an enslaved black man who argued that because he lived with his owner in a free territory where slavery was outlawed, he had become a free man. Sounds like a good argument to me, right? Free territory, slavery is outlawed here, free land, free, right? But the Supreme Court of the United States never really answered the question. Instead, Chief Justice Roger Taney issued one of the most disgraceful Supreme Court decisions ever written by the court. The court held that black people, y'all listen, black people, whether enslaved or free, weren't citizens of the United States within the meaning of the Constitution and therefore had no right to sue in federal court. I want you to understand something. We had lived in this country for hundreds of years at that point. We held office, we married, we'd owned land. As early, we served in the military and the militia. We literally had a black man who was a judge, and now you're saying that, and these were free black people and enslaved black people. It was one thing to say that the free black, the enslaved black people weren't citizens, but now you saying the free black people too? Think about that. I want you to think about that. Because of a Supreme Court decision, you were no longer treated like a free person when you were born free. People in New York never been enslaved. But what about the black people that came to visit? Were they also not, they weren't citizens at all too? They get treated like sex. Think about that is a horrible case. But Taney didn't stop there. He went on, it got worse. He went on and write that black people were beings of an inferior order, altogether unfit to associate with the white race, either in social or political relations. Now, he didn't say sexual relations because he probably had him a little mulatto chick back at the house. But this is what he said. He said they had no rights which the white man was bound to respect. Can you imagine if you couldn't call the police on white people, or you couldn't sue somebody who came and took your land? That's what that put us in. Think about that. This is what these foreigners, these black people from these other countries don't understand, because they're the ones that, they're the majority population in their country, so they don't have to deal with it. But this is what black folk had to come up with, okay? Now, he further stated that, and again, this is the reason why the 14th Amendment, the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment had to be enacted upon as soon as the Civil War was over, because this is what we were looking at. We were literally not just not able to vote. I mean, think about that. This is where we came from, okay? And so it's amazing, and it shows you the miracle of what America is, that through hard work, political argument, and using the legal system, that we've gone from being a group of people that didn't even have a group of rights to having black people who are multimillionaires, powerful, influential, and even presidents and first ladies in Congress. But either way, you know, this wasn't simply a bad opinion. It was a constitutional declaration that the black Americans could never truly belong to the American political community. And that's why Justice Clarence Thomas begins his dissent by reminding us that this court's decision in Dred Scott v. Sanford would have permanently denied citizenship to black people as a subordinate and inferior class. That's why he started off with that. He then explained that after the Civil War, the Reconstruction Congress overruled Dred Scott, first with the Civil Rights Act of 1866, then with the Citizenship Clause of the 14th Amendment, and finally he reminds us why Congress acted and blacks were entitled to citizenship, because they were Americans. Somebody type that in the chat room. Americans. So the next time somebody tells you that Black Americans don't have a country, you remind them that no, it is part of this country that Blacks are entitled to citizenship because we are Americans. So we were Americans before we were citizens. Think about how powerful that statement is. I don't want any of you Black Americans to ever think that you don't have a country. This is your country. You were Americans before you were citizens. So when they say you don't have a country because you were slave, no, we were still Americans. We were enslaved Americans. We didn't have the rights of citizenship, but we were still Americans. And I'm never going to let that go. This is our country. Even before we were citizens and before we had political rights, we were Americans. So we were Americans that whole time.